Who won the trade? The Minnesota Vikings and the Houston Texans just made a draft night trade. The Vikings are going to get the 23rd pick in the first round, giving up 2 second-round picks and a 6th-round pick. So we're really going to break this down, see who won the trade, and what these teams are going to do with these picks. First things first, with the Minnesota Vikings getting the ammunition to have a 2nd-round pick for a potential move up for a quarterback is the obvious answer. Justin Jefferson still has some questions before he signs his contract extension. Kirk Cousins just signed a monstrous deal with the Atlanta Falcons. And there's a lot of questions going around the Vikings, even though they still have a really talented core. TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison, bringing in Aaron Jones from the rival in the NFC North from the Green Bay Packers. And I think that's still a really good core. I think Kevin O'Connell has showed a lot of promise from a coaching standpoint, and having Brian Flores on the defensive side is only going to be beneficial. For the Texans side of things, they moved back about 20 picks, so 23rd to 42. I don't think that's too far off as far as, moving back in the draft. I think there's a bunch of financial scenarios we need to understand here. I still feel like there's going to be extremely talented players at 42. Getting an additional 2nd-round pick in next year is going to be beneficial to continue bringing in a young core for the Houston Texans to grow on the offense and defensive side of the ball and make sure that they're going to be one of the top contenders in the AFC. I feel like that's what the expectations are after going to the playoffs and making it to the divisional round last season. That was just year one for a bunch of those rookie players and a new year for D'Amico Ryans, who's the head coach in Houston. So things are very bright down in Houston, and we haven't been able to say that for a long time. As far as compensation goes, I feel like this was pretty fair. It makes sense on both sides for what their immediate needs are. After those 2 first-round picks for the Vikings, they don't pick again until the 4th round, so there definitely is some sort of a gap there. I feel like if they don't get the quarterback that they want, they might try and move one of those picks back to bolster that 2nd through 3rd round and just get talented players to continue building for the Vikings. Jayden Daniels and Drake Maye are 2 names that I consistently keep hearing in Minnesota linked to that quarterback position. Drake Maye specifically, but I know that Washington is really interested in Drake Maye at 2. The Patriots are in the quarterback conversation. We still need to figure out what's going on with Justin Fields and the whole Caleb Williams, number 1 overall pick drama. And there's a couple of teams that are hiding under the radar right now, like the Raiders, that are extremely interested in moving up as well, but haven't really moved the capital to make that a little bit more of an aggressive approach. For the Houston Texans, I feel like this is more about getting depth and lower cost contractually while still being able to find good players and make this talent continue into next year. Getting multiple draft picks, being able to stockpile compensation picks is always going to get you more draft selections than what you have for your typical NFL draft. The Texans have their quarterback. They have depth in the offense. I feel like this is really going to allow them to continue to build in the trenches, the offensive line, the defensive line. They have young safeties and young cornerbacks. So the Houston Texans really have the availability to draft the best player available to them at any of these selections with multiple opportunities to move around too. The Texans don't have a 1st-round pick after trading this one to the Vikings. After picking 42, they pick again at 59, so 2 picks within the top 60 picks still allows you to get 2 premium players. They pick 86 in the 3rd round, and then 5 picks from rounds 4 to 7. Plenty of opportunity to continue to grow for the Texans. I think this trade is beneficial on both sides. I do think this might work out a little bit better in the Texans' favor. 2nd-round picks aren't as valuable as 1st-round picks, but they're pretty close, knowing that if you're selecting inside the top 100, you're guaranteed to get great players. There's a lot of opportunity for the Vikings to miss on this draft pick. I know that selecting a quarterback in the top 10 is what teams like to do when they found their guy, but also we've seen so many examples and scenarios where this hasn't worked out. The Patriots just moved on from Mac Jones. The Pittsburgh Steelers just traded Kenny Pickett. I know those guys were just a little bit outside the top 10. Look at the Daniel Jones scenario right now, an absolute disaster. So I don't always think being aggressive in moving up for one of the first picks picks is the proper approach. I know Minnesota's a little bit desperate right now to keep one of the biggest stars in football as part of their organization, and they need some direction on the offensive side, and you can't get that without the quarterback position. Justin Fields is not going to be a person that's traded inside the division to be the Vikings franchise quarterback. But what do you guys think? Who do you think won the trade here? I'm going to give this one to the Texans. I think the trade makes sense on both sides. I'm going to go a B+ for the Texans. I'm going to go a C+ for the Vikings, knowing that they're not going to pick again until round 4 in this year's draft. Let us know what you think, and go check out the rest of our draft coverage and podcast episodes on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. Peace, love, 5 stars, nothing less.